Today what we will talk about is defending the big blind of 7 big blinds. It's a very interesting topic because you're so short in relation to the pot that you do not want to be doing much folding. However, you're also faced with a lot of frequent c-bets from the in-position player, and you do have usually the weakest range. There's very few exceptions here, because if you're this short, you should be defending a lot. And the reason for that is if you're new, you're getting great pot odds, and the shorter you are, the more important direct pot odds are, as the more accurate they will be to show how much equity you can realize. It's a simple way to think about it. So what we did in our sims is we did a 2.2x sizing. And the reason for that is because, frankly, it's quite common for people to play like a 2.2x open. And you could make an argument to open bigger into the stack this short. Or some people like to min raise. I don't think min raising is very good personally. But if you could make an argument for raising bigger, that's reasonable. Yeah. Obviously, the idea is then to deny the big blind equity. But in the wild, we will be facing a pretty small open quite frequently. And the first thing we should do here is start with a very simple example. The low jack player here opens 22% of hands. And if you compare this to a normal low jack opening range, which I didn't prep, we can totally do. Don't see why not. So this here is an easy example of a normal low jack opening range, and it's 2% wider. You can also see it's not just 2% wider. There's a certain kind of hands that it favors. Right? Switch back and forth. Right? So, interesting here is that when there's just one short stack in the blinds, we already shift our opening strategy. The frequencies don't shift dramatically, but they do shift a little bit, even with 5 players behind. So as we get closer and closer to the button, the shift will become more drastic. And it's important to realize already that offsuit aces do much better. Pairs, a bit worse. And suited ace does a bit worse because, well, raw equity is more important. So, yeah. And we'll continue in just a minute. So, yeah. So again, strategy gets changed a little bit. Very good. We carry on. I'm not going to do it by position, but you can see that this is a common theme. So here it's 27%, and in a regular chippy V sim it would be 29%. Okay, and again the shift, you're going again towards the offsuit aces because the aces have good raw equity against the big blind. Very interesting indeed. What's more interesting here is we're gonna go back to the low jack and we're gonna look at the big blind defending range, and we're gonna compare this to a 30 big blind defending range, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So this is our recommended response when we defend the 7 big blind stack. Hello bar. Yeah, and you can see that basically what our computer wants to do is to say, we'll put in the top, whatever kind of percentage that is, the top 11% of hands in terms of raw equity. And that does make sense because we're shoving completely linear. And call 3-3 gem deuces, exactly, J. Yeah, that's the deuces are kind of an outlier, but clearly what this means is that all of these pairs are going to perform roughly the same whether we call or jam. Yeah, if we look at going all in, there's precisely 0 folds, right? So the main top, all of this calling to me is very interesting. We're seeing here 74% call, and that's against a pretty tight low jack range. So as you can see, you will be defending a lot, and defending a lot is what you want. We can quickly compare this to the next best example, which is this right here. And you can see there's only 60% calling. Right. So, alright, yeah, let's see who, very good. Yeah, okay, so you can see 60% calling versus 75% calling. So, well, quite a substantial difference. And as I said before, the reason for this is short stacked, we do realize more equity. If your opponent's min raise, you call a bit more. If your opponent's 3x, you'd call a fair bit less. One thing I want to say about these sims is that we allowed the option to open shove, and that is important if you're the button player, because if you are the button player, sorry, I had the wrong sim up. If you're the button player here, it is really important to deny equity, and with 7 big blinds, that might not be that big of a deal, but if you're like looking at a 10 big blind stack in the big blind, there is going to be shoving. At 7 big blinds, it is tempting, but apparently it is not a thing. So, yeah. Just learned something as well. Okay, interesting. We can compare again the button range here. You can see it's only 42% as opposed to 46%. So, as I said before, yeah, so now it's like a 4% gap on the button, so keep that in mind. And also, just look at, we're open folding deuces, which I may or may not be tempted to shove. We got the Finton rate, that's pressure. Thank you, buddy. There goes my plan of rating you afterwards. So yeah, anyway, welcome guys. For those who missed the introduction, quite unfortunate, we're talking about defending the big blind of the short stack. And it turns out you're just on time, because after I get done rambling about what we want to defend here, we are going to look at some post-flop hands. We're going to talk quite a lot about defending the big blind of a short stack. And that's the topic for today. So, yeah. Again, we're facing a button range here, 42%. We only have 7 big blinds in the big blind. And the question is, what do we do? Well, as if you were here from the beginning, you'll already basically know the answer. The answer is not fold, as we are not folding. This is our strategy. We're calling 75% of our hands, and we're shoving, again, a pretty linear 21% of our hands. And thank you. Yeah, so again, the reason for this is that with 7 big blinds, there is no polarization. There is no other concept than realizing our equity. And realizing our equity is a great way to get into the post-flop stuff, because all we're going to see today is pretty much poker where we don't have much fold equity. And if you know how to play poker without any fold equity, well, you'll do just very well on the short stack. So we're gonna play probably around 50 hands. Let's see how quickly we get through. See how many interesting spots we run into of low jack versus big blind. And we're gonna do button against big blind. And I always say, when you study something like this, it's important to start with the most narrow ranges, so the concepts are the most clear. Okay, so here right now we're gonna start with the low jack versus big blind defense, and then we're gonna look at the button versus big blind defense afterwards. And we also have some aggregate reports we could look at as well. I mostly like to keep these sessions like play focused. However, we can look at aggregate reports as well. Yeah, I'll just quickly do this hand. This seems like a fairly straightforward 1 big blind bet, and I assume we do so with most of our range. Yeah, so right. I do quickly want to look at aggregate reports here. So big blind. We're gonna look at the outer position reports. Right, and I hope this isn't too small for the stream, but just quickly and very simply looking at this. We are looking at, so for those who've not seen this, these are our new aggregate reports, and you can quickly see the strategy for the out of position player here. And I want to know what kind of boards we don't lead from the beginning, because this is always a great place to start. Which boards benefit the most from us leading? We can see right now that if we look at the betting frequency, it shows that we're going to go all in on average 8% of the time. And if you think about this, this is quite a lot on some flops, because there's going to be a lot of flops we just check fold. And by definition, that would just mean there's like the 8% has to come somewhere. And it probably comes from boards like, I don't know, 765, 854, you know, just throwing out random low boards that clearly connect with us. And we can easily verify this by looking at boards we bet the most often. Okay, this is the way to do it. So you can set this to show you which boards you want to lead the most often, and it's like 765. So like there is no real surprise here. There is no one big blind betting. As you can see, one big blind is not a very common lead size here at all. We thought it might be interesting to lead small in some spots, but apparently the solver does not tend to do this, and the solver likes to jam, which is the stop and go, exactly. Yeah, we used to call this play stop and go. So just quickly going through these flops so I have a better idea. Okay, I would recommend anyone does this in their own study time, because if you're trying to tackle something new, as I say so many times, you gotta try and make it somewhat easy, right? So, you know, you need to look at which boards do we lead at and which boards, you know, like it is very tempting to lead a lot. So like we can look at like some of the zero lead boards as well, and you can see they're the ones you would expect, right? That's pretty interesting. What also helps me in these spots is to realize which boards have the highest equity for us, and that's sort of quite similar as well. Yeah, so I can see like the 765 again is the highest equity board. That makes sense. So as I said before, this spot is actually kind of simple, right? It's all about protecting and realizing our equity. Well, let's get into it, and let's perhaps see why it's not so simple before we get into it. So, because I also would like to look at the in position report really quickly, not too long, just quickly scan through this, because again, I said we want to talk about the big blind, so I mainly want to focus on playing from the big blind. However, it is important to be prepared by your opponent's actions. So we are gonna have a quick scan at seeing which boards they will go all in on. And it should be no surprise that these boards, the first ones that do pop up, and there's a lot of them, is like they get to jam on like 58%, right? And that is clearly a lot, right? The total betting frequency is north of 90% here. And it actually does turn out that jamming is much more common, or not much more common, than just betting one big blind. So again, both sides try to protect the equity, deny the opponent's equity, and overall just, yeah, do that. Interesting indeed. So I'm trying to see if there's any outliers here. I assume The typical one big blind boards would be high card paired boards. Ace king queen, ace king jack, ace 8-3 with a flush draw, ace 6 deuce. So yeah, quite interesting. Again, you gotta realize that these outputs are very, very sensitive, and if you make minor changes to their ranges, these things would change as well. But this is important to have a rough idea to see which boards will get like primarily the one big blind treatment and which ones will get the shove. So we're now gonna go in and play some hands, focusing strictly on the big blind. We'll do that for a little bit. All right, so 10-7 deuce, one of 10-7 deuce just so happens to be exactly one of those boards in the middle where you could see arguments for both. I'm personally thinking that we would be shoving here quite often after what we've just looked at. All right, okay. So, as I said before, we sort of hit the in-between board. I thought there might be a bit more jamming than 5% of hands. Coffee is good. Right. So, again, I quickly scanned through the reports. I thought the board like 10-7 didn't even roll. I know, this was a problem. I just put it in. And again, I don't want to hype this up and say I played it great. Now, I think I actually made a clear mistake. And the mistake here is that I didn't randomize, as Jay kind of said in the chat. If I don't randomize this spot, I become exploitable to an observant opponent. And one could easily argue, yeah, well, how are they going to exploit you with a 5 big blind stack? Well, it shows a little misunderstanding of this spot, and that I'm not as sharp as I wish to be, right? If I frequently jam the wrong kind of hands, or if I jam like the wrong kind of board into this too strong of a range, I have a leak in my game that needs addressing. So we shall fix this today. No big deal. It was the very first hand. Yeah. Show me your stats, Jay. Now, we're gonna switch this over to just the big blind as well after this hand. Ace 9-7, I'm assuming it's just crystal clear jam for in position. Very funny. It's a strategically very interesting spot. Because, again, in typical poker, we do not think about the game exactly like this, right? This is like, if a lot of people are here, again, I should have said what I did. I randomized, I got an 87. I assume that, given everything we talked about, Jack 8-7, there is going to be quite a bit of donking. So this hand fits right in. 92 from out of position. That means you missed some out of position ones. Right, so a little bit sharper. Had a sip of my coffee. There's going to be some jams here. There's not many jams, but it did make sense to me that the jams should come from like the region like King 10, overcard, gut shot. That's good enough, right? So some top pairs do the jamming as well. And then 9-6 with the heart just seems so beautiful. Like such a pure combo. If you're just out starting introducing gems to your games, and you just so happen to catch the first two hands, you can usually build your range right around there. And what you do not want is to engage on this board at all. However, even if there's nothing to take away from this hand, it is quite interesting to look at which hands do continue, right? Because you cannot overfold in this spot, and you will have to call off with the Jack 10 with the backdoor flush draw, right? So, if you're calling off Jack 10, naked Jack 10, backdoor flush draw, there will be lots of stack offs today, so let's keep going. Jack fold. Notice again that the queen, queen, jack is an extremely favorable board for them, therefore small bet. Is it a mistake to jam 8-8 pre from the big blind? It's not the most plus EV option. So according to the sim, you make more money by simply calling. And the reason for that is, if you look at this range, you see here calling, our opponent does not fold against an all-in. So it just means that the EV of shove can be clearly calculated, and the solver just thinks, actually, I make more money by just calling. So, 965 is an extremely high frequency jam board, as we have established. I have a very interesting hand to jam. However, I only rolled a 33. I think we should check then, but we do not. So it actually turns out it is a pure jam. Right. Well, that's why we're doing this session, right? We're going to go back, look at the board, and we're going to check if my intuition was right that said this is a very high frequency jam. It is, well, 35% of the time. Now we're going to look at the Jack 7 combos to see if... So Jack 7 backdoor jam, Jack 7 no backdoor does this. The backdoor is quite important here, isn't it? Wow, this is like razor thin that this combo. This backdoor pure combo. Hey John, good to see you. Yeah, this is the pure combo because we block the backdoor diamonds as well, which would call our shove, right? I imagine if we go all in and then we look at the DTO board, and DTO board now has Queen Jack of Diamonds, I want to see. Queen Jack of Diamonds calls. Which apparently doesn't matter because of the Queen Jack of Hearts calls. So that's kind of surprising. But something like this perhaps? Right. So I checked, we have to go lower, right? So like basically you want this because it blocks the Jack 10 call, and it blocks... It's a very interesting spot because you really go thin with your blockers here, right? This is very interesting. A lot of it is just about minor removal effects that will teach you how to play this really well. But I always say it's not too important to go into specifics. In this spot, I disagree because this is your only task. You have pretty much just one decision. Does it go, does it not go? Right? So if this is what you're doing, you better be razor sharp. Make a lot of money. It's also very fun. Let's go. I'm just gonna pure jam this. Ignore the RNG. It's for the cameras. That was a pure jam. And again, the reason for me pure jamming here was because I decided the 6 of spades would make me lean towards a pure jam, thinking it's gonna be... Again, these differences are extremely tiny. So I was wrong though, wasn't I? It was not quite a pure jam. However, it's quite appealing. And again, it's a 20% jam board. I think going forward, what we should do is we should really categorize these boards into how often we jam them and proceed accordingly. This is going to help us a lot. Again, you can see the 5 of spades and the 6 of spades. There's not too much difference here between these. Again, it's slightly, I want to say. Is this going to be... Guys, this is like super interesting. It's really... You gotta learn and play better. Especially you. It's really interesting to me again how there's an interaction around some sort of backdoor diamonds here as well. This is really fun. Yeah, hey Martin. It's really it's actually really interesting to me because it's different poker and it's like very understudied, even though it is so simple. It's not simple. It's like again like gems coming preferably from like backdoor diamonds. Diamonds, diamonds, diamonds. Removing the diamond. We'll keep an extra eye on that for sure. That's right. That's absolutely right. Jay in the chat makes an interesting point, saying that this is very important for people who like to late register tournaments. Could not agree more. That is perfectly right. Here's an interesting change of pace. We absolutely smashed the board. That's a first for this session. I think we checked this. Right. Okay. Now, as I said before, we gotta categorize our boards. This board is a super high frequency jam with our range. I was imagining like 60% jamming of our range. Okay, slightly wrong. But okay, we're just getting started. I thought this was one of the higher ones. It did make sense to me to pure check this one as a trap. This is actually really cool. And the solver says something here. I'm not going to disagree with it, but I thought it was pretty interesting that I have top pair, top kicker. So I was thinking, if I check and they put in the range, why can I not just turn my hand, face up? They put it in there. They put it in. It's okay. I can just call. And apparently we still want to jam, which is very interesting because I just thought my hand is so strong that I would be okay with trapping it. But it turns out even top pair, top kicker does benefit from fold equity here. Makes you think, doesn't it? It's a really interesting concept. Really, really strange. Yeah, I agree, John. Absolutely. But that's why this spot is so fascinating, right? I think us humans are typically not very good at spots where it's all about equity realization. For some reason, we must be poorly trained. We're too scared. And we do all kinds of things. And our intuition lets us down. So that's why drilling these is highly recommended. And again, the very funny thing here is this is all against the low jack range. If this was against the button range, we would be going even crazier. So to me, this is a pure check fold here. It is not, sorry, it is a pure check fold if they were to jam. I think here we gotta call. And I'm just gonna check. And we're just gonna give this up. And I think I believe this is the only correct way to play this hand. Turn action pocket. I did not expect to see many turns here, guys. This is almost YouTube highlight worthy in my book that there is. Right. Again, one thing I can also talk about quickly here. The hands that do call to go to the turn, some people will say, oh, you're quite capped. You don't have any strong hands here because you're just putting in all your 9x mostly. You're putting in your strong 8x as well. So you do check raise a lot and you do jam a lot. But one thing you will see as stacks get shorter is that it's more about equity and less about like, ooh, I have a gut shot, potential, right? So you take raw equity very often. And it's a very good spot to drive that concept home there, that equity realization is just so important when you're short, right? It's all about it. So, your gut shots, you can't call the all in. So you just call the one big blind bet, you see if you improve, and if you don't, you just give up. And a lot of people in the chat here, I know, would benefit from the advice of sometimes giving up with their gut shots, etc. So, no. Oh, this is just a trivial fold. Oh. We will be making some aggressive defense, but this shall not be one of them. This is a high frequency torture bet by the in-position player. Torture me. Again, what we have just talked about here as well. We do have top pair, and we should keep our options open with an RNG, and we roll a 33, so we check. And we call, and I'm pretty sure this was random. Okay, it was a pure check. Oh, Well, this is interesting. Jack 10-8 we do, however. Check, completely check. This is a 0 frequency. And give me 1 second, guys. I'm sorry for misclicking. We do check full frequency on Jack 10-8. I had aces. Yeah, okay. I'm with you, DTO bot. I dig it. Yeah, cool. Cool, yeah. So basically on Jack 10-8, the in-position player is so far ahead that they will split the range into 2 sizings, all-in and min-bet. So for that reason, we do want to check against that so we can check jam. Very interesting, very interesting. Jack 10-3, I believe the same concept applies, and this is just a range check. Just always think about our ranges first. And again, I believe that in-position player on Jack 10-3 is probably just going to put us all in a lot. Okay, 2-to-1 advantage over betting a big blind, so that's interesting. 9-8-5, one of the higher frequency leads. Not this hand. This is not our hand. And again, we're should check our range and see like 30% lead, 40% lead, whatever. What is it? 30? Okay. Okay. See, and again, you can see that like ace 8 gets in the mix, or like ace 9 is not in there, ace 9 is not in there. King 9, king 9. Okay. I hope we get some interesting hands where we can talk about the effects of the removal of a diamond in our hand. That would be kind of cool. I have so many backdoors, but really just a fold, of course. Alright, you cannot call this. The Jack 4 again, getting some premium defending hands here as well. Just fold. Notice how they go with a 1 big blind bet on this kind of board, and to me this is pretty interesting as well. Right. Typically, if you're playing deeper stacked, you go a bit bigger on the ace wheel boards to charge the big blind a worse price with all their gut shots. However, I should say, however, you know, since we have no 4 deuce, and yeah, we have no 4 deuce, and also no 3 deuce. But much more important is even if we make our straight, you know, even if we make our straight, we're not gonna get a lot of money. We're gonna get some money, but again, equity works in many different ways. So if you're playing deep stack, you do not want your opponent to hit a cheap gut shot that could potentially screw you over for a lot of money. However, if you're this short, it's okay. You know, it does not hurt you as much. So many different concepts at play here, and this is a great teaching spot. It's like also I'm on a big streak. 9-5-3, I believe there's no jamming here with this hand for sure. With our range, I assume there's, I want to say like 15% perhaps. There's going to be some jamming here. Okay, 15-20% again. I think you're quick firing. I'm not too sure this is a quick fire. Actually, could talk about this once. I think the Jack of Diamonds, as opposed to not having the Jack of Diamonds. Yeah, well, it's a rainbow board, so I would not go this deep. It's interesting. It's an interesting one. So the non-backdoor suit would be hearts. So I just want to have a quick look at seeing if how having a heart changes things, if that matters too much on this board. Probably not too much, no. It's always interesting. Okay, the backdoor flush draw investigation shall continue at some point. This is a trap, and I think this is a sub 10% lead board, I want to say. It's a 15% lead. Okay. Sub 10%. Sub 10% was a bad guess. I deserve to get slapped. Okay, I'll double down on it. This is sub 10% lead. We're facing a 1 big blind bet here. And again, very interesting hand. You know? Here we really want to know. Gotta go all in here. Calling is just a minor inaccuracy. Yeah, jam. And I again believe, okay, like here you can see like 9-7 with a spade, which is mainly calling, which is interesting as well. 9-7 with the pure jam. Yep. Don't know what to say. That is correct. You can count on DTO to find its folds. Very good. DTO. Well, in my defense, DTO going here with a 13% bet, 13% range, small bet. It's not the most common size we face, you know, and so we need to look into how this is constructed to see if this helps. So yes. Whee! Decided to get more comfy. Interesting indeed. Yeah, so aces do check back sometimes, kings min bet. 9-8 is in there, always check set, that is definitely accurate. Hey, bonus question for the chat. Sevens love checking. More so than kings. This is like one of these peculiar spots. Well, is this one of those spots where if you have kings, you're more likely to face a jam than if you have sevens? It's no, I think they I think the 7x combos just play more aggressively than the king x combos. The king, guys, it's literally what I described. Look at how aggressive the 7x combos play, and the king x combos do result in calling a bit, right? So if you have kings, the best way to stack your opponent is by betting, because they have the 7x so often that they will jam. While if you have sevens, you're very interested in slow playing because, you know what I'm saying? I think this to me, this is quite interesting. It's very minor, so, right? Does that make sense what I explained? That like you just like face the 7 just jams more often than the king. It's slightly more calling, so if you have, it's again equity denial, right? This is one of those painful check folding ones. One of those very painful check folding ones. It does not really matter very much, Jay. It's so minor, you know. But if you ever want to focus on some minor spots, this one's pretty good because it's only one decision, right? If you're like 100 big blinds deep and you're thinking about something this small, you're just asking for trouble. But if you're this short and this is your only decision, I wanted to check which queen jack combos. It's all about thresholds as well, right? So we need to learn stack of thresholds here. So for me, I was gonna see if king queen with a thing was king queen with a spade was gonna go, and the answer is not in the range. Ace deuce perhaps with a spade, is that gonna go? Yeah, right. So like that's a threshold thing. If you're off, you know, if you stack queen jack with a spade, it's not terrible by any means, but you are losing some EV, right? You're way better off stacking the ace. So again, you know, like this should be fairly simple for most poker players, but people are usually a little bit too arrogant to run these spots, you know. I know how to play my 5 big blind stack. So it's actually, we do not, and it's okay. It's okay. We need to learn, and like again, what we learn is here ace 8-5. We've learned that this is not a jam board; it's a pure check board. Our opponent, what's their strategy? it's basically a very frequent min bet, but also some jamming. So again, we're learning. I can highly recommend the aggregate reports for this spot as well. Again here, thresholds are what matters. King high 8 offsuit, easy fold, but we still want to go into the range and look at what if I had king 8 with a backdoor. And you can quickly see that this is right around where the threshold is actually. So you have all these king x hands right here and king 4, because it makes backdoor straights as well as a clear-cut cutoff point. To me, very interesting. And again, you do jam all of your bottom pairs so often, and you do more calling with the ace, with your top pairs, and you do more calling with your straight draws, your gut shots, your 9-6 here. And again, if you look at the in position range, we can again, we talked about how sets play earlier on the king high board. Now we're gonna look at how sets play on the ace high board. And aces go into the small betting range, and again you can see that sevens do wanna check sometimes, and the same thing with fives. And it's the same concept again where, well, opponent stacks off with any pair anyway, plays more aggressive if he has the lower pair, therefore my aces are more of a bet. So again, same concept, which thankfully carries over. Induce with top set. There we go. So today's lesson can basically always check top set except for in this one specific spot, right? That's pretty cool. Again, I was thinking, is this a board where there's some jamming? My answer to this would be no, I do not jam the queen 8 deuce, and this might be a mistake. But I think I'm going with no jams here. And I am very happy with this assessment. So I feel like this spot is so rich and interesting that we are just going to focus on big blind. And I think next time maybe I want to do a session on how to play this in position, because I think this is quite interesting. 10-8, 10-9-8, I think there's a board there's going to be... That's actually an interesting one because of the connectivity with Queen Jack. Well, at any sort of reasonable size, this is a range check. I'm gonna RNG. I roll a 60. Any guesses from the chat how often we jam the 10-9-8 with our whole range? $30 is too high. $70 is way too high. I like Martins, I think. I like 10, yeah. I think it's well, 2%. Everybody go do 100 hands of this. No, okay. Blunder alert. Yeah, it's really difficult, right? So you look at a board like 10-9-8 and you don't realize how favorable it is for the early position player, right? 100 check call. Yeah, well, this hand is 100% check call. Yes. Gigo, yes. 10-7-6 is 20%. Oh, there you go. The 10-9-8 board is actually quite an interesting one, even at deeper stacks. Yeah, you have a really good equity hand here. You just need to check call this off. We can look at some again. We should again look at thresholds, you know. And what's this absolutely strongest hand we do entertain folding? In the big blind we are, yes. If you've missed the beginning of the session, you should watch it because we're only talking about big blind defense, and it's well worth your time, I promise you. So as far as thresholds go, we stack literally any pair. That's interesting. That's always fun. Restack the king high diamond, ace high diamond. Isn't it a preflop fold? Absolutely not. Again, no, don't be sorry for asking those questions. I'll give you the short answer. If you want the long answer, you have to rewatch the video or join us on Discord later. But the short answer is we're very short, and we want to defend a lot of hands because they're very short. If you want to know why that is, you need to watch the first hour of this coaching. But the short answer is you need to realize your equity. So we're defending extremely wide, and we will see a lot of flops. So, I don't mind repeating it because it's a very important concept that applies. You know, you just need to realize, we gotta realize our equity. Jack 8-7, again, we gotta ask ourselves, do we do any jamming? Probably around 20% would be my guess. It's still disconnected in the middle, which leads to some jamming rather than this Jack 10-9 would be range checking. Is this a good hand to jam? We would be denying equity from certain hands, so it's actually quite interesting. I'm gonna go with it. It's a pure check. It's obviously a stack off as we check. And right, so I decided to RNG this one. I also decided to jam too much. Well, is there any sort of 7 that does jam? No, the 7. Right, okay, I picked the wrong kind of 7 again, which is okay. I think the idea is to just check call 9-7, yeah, 7-6, 9-7, John, good catch, because those deny equity again from the hands that hold queen jack, right? So like queen, sorry, say. If he has say king queen, right? We check this, and he puts us in with king queen. Puts us in with king queen, or he checks his king queen, or he does anything with king queen. It's a disaster for us, right? If we hold the 7-6, but if we have the queen 7, we are now the ones dominating his king queen, so we kind of want him to put in those hands. So like again, those are like these minor blocker things that are pretty important that is stacked up. Let's have some fun. This is actually quite interesting because I looked earlier at like some certain thresholds about what we stack off, and I remember that we do stack off some ace highs of some kind. I think I'd call the ace of clubs and fold the 5 of clubs. But that might also still be in it. So like queen jack, ace 8. Okay. Okay. Damn it, I was too this whole spot has hurt my head to a point where I was too loose and aggressive, which interesting. Again, queen jack 5 is just a pure range check, guys. And again, this is gonna be a jam almost always, but we did roll a 29, so I'm just gonna call. And that's apparently a mistake. That's kind of unfortunate. I blame the RNG. I did say we would jam a lot, frankly. I know, this hurts that you have to fold this. I did say we jam a lot, so yeah, it's pretty good. Queen jack is the only one that calls as a trap, right? And I would be 5-5 and calls and trap your set. I imagine in position is just gonna do the same thing again, where top set he just bets one. Top set here. Okay, here all the sets check, so we can't really see a difference. But it's this one's for Jay in the chat who likes checking his sets. Look at that. That's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. I assume this is just beautiful, isn't it? Right, again, if we were facing, which we will never get to see. Very frequent big bet by DTO. Damn. I assume on Jack 10-8 we just have to check range, even though this is a very appealing jam. Obviously we do not fold the gutter. You know, Jack 10-8 is just, that's a range check. We gotta open end on my bet. We hit big on a board that's extremely favorable. We get hit by one big blind bet quite frequently. And I think this is pure shove. Right, yeah. This is so much fun. It is until you realize it actually, even if you've done this for a few hours, it's still very hard. No, it actually is pretty fun. Thanks for stopping by. Yo, Travesty, what's up? Yeah, it's so common, you know. You need to learn how to do this with 7 big blinds. You gotta learn how to do it with 10 big blinds. I did other coaching sessions on the same topic, where we talk about the same thing. Snap call. And folding is a huge disaster, of course. Very good. John, you're asking about the Queen 10 on King Queen 10. I would assume it's because the ace has decent equity against us, so it's just gonna bet call us anyway. And we do stack the king, which is nice. We also stack all the Queen X combos that bet, which is also nice. There's so much going on this board where we potentially wouldn't stack him. Say the turn would be a jack, the turn could be an ace, could be another heart. I think this is a fast play kind of board because the in-position player has so much equity. Yeah, I mean, I'm not fully confident either. I think something like King Queen would be check calling instead. What's up, Broad? Good to see you. Speaking of two pairs that are calls, I will call this one. And calling again, frankly. This is an example of a two-pair hand that does call. And at a short stack, this plays completely different to a deep stack. At a deep stack, there's much less check raising. And if you do check raise, you would love a hand like two pair, right? But this sums this up so beautifully why this session today is important, because your check raising range looks different and like your calling range looks more trappy, and you know, you construct it like trappy and gut shotty. It's a little bit polar, even though it's weird to think of a calling range as being polar, right? It just leads to funny outcomes when you play like this. Again, he's gonna bet one big blind or all in. We have a trivial call. Gut shotty. Yeah, kinda. Thanks, bro. No one else is capable of doing this. I have to fix my Twitch. I'm kind of locked out here. So no. Alright, we'll fix this later if you have a moment. That'd be great. King 7 deuce range check, and obviously check fold here. Notice how he goes one big blind on 7 deuce. Disconnected board. In position, we'll just bet. We'll fix my stream later, guys. For now, just enjoy the coaching. 7-3 deuce. There's gonna be roughly 20% jamming, would be my guess. Now we gotta think. We do not block any of their face cards, which is good. Block ace 4 of diamonds, which is also good. Two things leaning towards jamming. Very good. Having the 3, that's like some sort of reason to jam. I am going very high frequency jam here. I was gonna jam like 60%. Right? So again, we did this. It's like some jamming. We RNG to check. This is good. This is what we should be doing. And it's a very low board. We gotta jam. I personally think I tend to jam too much in these boards. But this is such an appealing hand to do so. And like these kind of things lean towards checking. Yeah, very interesting. I like this jam. I like this hand to jam. It's okay. I think we'll do roughly half an hour longer, and then 974. Again, it's important to think that this is a very frequent jam board. Yeah, Dr. No, yeah. Against people who check back too often, even though those guys are hard to find in the wild, the EV of checking any sort of, well, no, the EV of jamming equity denial always goes up, right? Jack 6-3. I'm going range check here. Looking hot tonight. Thanks. At this stack depth, I believe we effectively have the nuts, even though this is pretty interesting what just happened here. This is like very hard because we're not in this spot very often, so we should, I don't know, the check note here. Just ignore that. It happens so infrequently that we should not waste our energy on this. If you had asked me before the session to pick a board where we just basically jam most of our hands, I would have said like 4-3-2s, 5-3-2s, etc. So also just 50% jam, huh? Okay. Okay, well, that's quite an interesting one. We shall. I'm again investigating the interaction between the Jack of Diamonds and our willingness to shove, because early on in the session we were talking about how important the back door is and what it does to their range. Yeah. Yeah, it's so the Jack of Diamonds leans towards check as it blocks his calls. Yeah. Yeah, it does. It does, John. Yeah. Um. So the Jack of Diamonds here leans towards checks because it blocks the calls and that's one that wants to call. So if I were to go to Jack 5, I assume it would be reversed. So why not? And I assume this is correct. So the Jack of Diamonds. Right, okay. So it's like you really can think about what your side card does. Because it is kind of important, right? Spades. Here it removes calls. And since we don't want calls with this hand, it plays more aggressive. But if we have Jack 4, like in this example, since it removes calls, we play it more passively. That's one way to think about backdoors in this situation. That's pretty interesting. I hope this comes up again because I find this very fascinating. It's like minor interactions like these, you know. They're not super important for your win rate, but learning to play them better, this is very tricky one indeed, because we don't have the backdoor flush draw. We do love jamming. I am gonna just call it. this is kind of funny, I have to admit. Wow. Don't click fold. Come on. Fold is not allowed. That's not fold cannot possibly be a thing. Alright, you can again see here that the ace highs just push the equity, and then like the calling range is sort of built around. Yeah, I'm not folding, guys. I can't fold. Come on. That hand is too good. This is just a trivial check fold. 5-3. Some check folding to some more check folding to do. Fold, check fold, check fold. A7 might be interesting. Call. Board is in our favor, that is correct. You can look at the equities later. we found the indifferent hand, boys. We found the indifferent ace7. Yeah, I'm not gonna overanalyze this. Just, you know, just the indifferent ace7. Check folding, queen 7 deuce. Check folding. So much check folding here. These boards. Queen queen jack. Another check folding type of board. Some more check folding to do. Again, this is a very high frequency jam board. Just check, check. Check, check. You can get a good streak in these spots, yes, but streak's not what we care for, is it? Very, very common jams. I was wondering if my Jack 10 with the heart did anything interesting or has anything interesting going for it. High frequency, leading board, certainly. That is for damn sure. However, very interesting. If, again, you know, the set, you know, you can slow play your sets, so interesting development as well. So I'm gonna ING this. I'm gonna check, but I strongly believe there's gonna be some jamming here. Yes, 60% jam of this hand. And again, you know, minor difference here, but we can see that holding, or I should say unblocking our opponent having ace high backdoor makes us want to shove more with this kind of hand, since we want to get called by the ace high backdoor. If I flip this around and I look at, you know, it's a great option to retry again. Put this all in. You can see right here, our opponent just called off king queen of hearts. Our opponent also doesn't fold very much. Our opponent only folds queen jack offsuit sometimes. Imagine jamming trips. Oh, why not? You know, you can jam if our opponent doesn't fold very much. It's just an. This spot is almost like a toy game, you know, it's like very very simplified poker. Ultimately, this is very interesting to me. Is that a post call? Just check it down, I guess. Ugh, we're calling all in. We can't go beat the 16 streak. If I was playing to get a high streak, I would also be doing much better. I just note how much leading all in there is even on a monotone board, which I did not realize originally. Again, I sort of made a mistake here, not realizing how much jam there would be. Well, this is very hard, because a lot of things that you used to believe about poker are just being universally true do not anymore apply in these spots. It's very strange. Okay, we're gonna definitely play out this streak and perhaps do a little bit more. Again, 10-8 deuce, just check call the all in. We do not fold ace-7 ever. We check fold the 10-6. This is actually really interesting again. Assumes just a range check. One big blind bet. I don't know, I thought it was some sort of say, what's the deal here? All the jacks just jam. This is wow. Do you understand me? Well, 30, 30 Phoenix, yeah, it's just another, it's just another poker spot where people blindly overestimate their abilities and think this is easier than it really is, right? It's not easy. It's like, again, at this spot here where RNG'd, I'm thinking, I know it's mainly a jam, but I'm also thinking, what's the difference here? It's a very minute difference. ETO bet folding, just bet folding the under pairs, huh? So if you have a hand like Jack Deuce through, yeah, exactly. So just, yeah, you just need, you just, you wanna unblock the 5s, 4s, and 6s, right? And if you do block the 5, 4s, and 6s, or 8s, you just call. Because basically you're thinking, you fold like these tiny, tiny hands, that tiny, tiny hand claws. This is just a check call. Well, we've established that a lot of our jamming comes from this region. And if what I established is right, as you can see, the top set plays more passive than middle set. Yeah, we found the pure jam here, as does any pair, so it's interesting as well. 4-3-2s, we found a check fold here. Good. I assume there's some leading here. There's quite a bit of leading actually. Hey Crowdog, what's up? Yeah, hit me up later. Not a stream question, but I think we could do something like this. Here, basically, I'm thinking, how does the King of Hearts interact? Because everything we've talked about right now, we would like him to have King X of Hearts, because this is a combo we get fold against. Right? Well, gotta call, obviously. Well, it turns out it doesn't matter in this spot, really. 2%. Effectively the same hand. This one doesn't... I suppose it doesn't matter, because in position just calls off anyway, right? Do want him to have King 10 of Hearts. Ridiculous spot. Yeah, it's really tough. We're gonna like rerun this for 1 second. I assume any King X of Hearts just calls, right? Yeah, they all call, of course. They all call. The whole range calls. We like spots where in position this range calls. Confusing everyone. There's gonna be some jamming. Not that often. The open ender with the diamond just goes in. Our calls are primarily gut shot based, so you can see some 9-7 that would probably call here, would be my guess. 10-9, just pure jamming. It's fine. Yeah. Okay, got a good feel for these spots now, I think. Could definitely feel sharper. So we got another 10 minutes going. Then we're gonna work on something else. Presume it's just folds. Ace deuce with a backdoor flush draw would definitely call, would be my guess. Or jam. Or jam. Said it. Or jam. Oh, no. These differences are too minute to care. Let's move on. No to jamming, yes to calling. I don't think Jack 7-5 is a board we typically lead very often. Oops. Oh, 30%. Again, the Jack 8 of diamonds. Oh yeah, pocket fours. You don't really call preflop to fold any of these pairs, right? People asked earlier, how do we play? Why do we call these pairs? And the answer is, we call them so we can make profitable decisions after the flop. Here we're in the check node on the king high board, which is really infrequent. I assume the way to play it is to just check call and check fold the river. Again, I don't want to waste too much time on spots that don't happen very often. Check, check. We turned the nuts. So I'm just gonna RNG my turn action. Well, in that case, I just check. And all of it. I was RNGing between... Oh. Oh, the DTO bot decided that this would be the time to check a set. queen 7 deuce. Amusing for sure. Very funny hand. Pure checking the turn. It's interesting that we range check the turn here, even this shallow. Deep stack I would. That's short, I'm not sure. Okay. For interesting. Just gotta call it off, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And on this board, the ace high calls off. It's just you're just too strong. Okay, well, I did kind of mess that up. Not happy. Here we just all in, right? Never fold ace high. It's not never fold ace high though. It's like a very specific spot. Again, what I did here, where I just straight up jammed, I was thinking, well, the same stuff we discussed before, where I thought, well, some of our draws want to call, some want to jam, and I decided this one just jams. And just unblocking the 4s and 5s that fold, which is the very, very infrequent part of the range, but the only thing that falls. Here we... Ooh, this is kind of interesting, I suppose. This queen of spades makes me call. Yeah, Jay, but that would be for another session, because I have to wrap this up in like 10 minutes. Because it goes on YouTube. If I'm bored later when I'm done with my other work, I can maybe do a late night DTO stream for the hardcores. But I want to fix some things with the stream and stuff. Yeah. So basically here, I think this pure play that I'm pretty happy. We can see our bluffs, they come from 10. They come from this region and this stuff. Yeah, I would highly encourage you guys to join our Discord. Post something on Discord about the spot, because it's quite interesting. Again, just check jamming here. Pure seems like the play. This I'm fairly confident about. And again, the really cool thing here, these kind of open-enders jam, while these kind of open-enders call. And again, it has everything to do with the tiny bit of fold equity we have here against the low pairs. So I'm gonna... Oof, that's actually legitimately difficult. At the ace of hearts I would call. I think I would definitely call the ace of hearts. I suck again. That's ace 8 with the ace of hearts again calls. Very difficult spot. Like, finding all these thresholds is so hard. That's just a fold. Ace 8 of diamonds. Well, it's not a fold, I'm just jamming. Oops. Do I jam now? Yeah. Ace 4 jams. I guess like the Broadway interaction is just about bad enough to where we cannot check jam the ace anymore. But ace deuce just wants to go, so maybe ace 8 is just better. Okay. Ace deuce wants to go. Ace 5 wants to go. They all have backdoor straight draws though, don't they? They do. Right. I'm gonna wrap the stream up in like 5 minutes. Would someone like to suggest someone for us to rate? I know a lot of you guys are tired now, so pick me whoever, show me whoever you like to watch when you like to relax, 4 3 deuce, we have the Jack of Spades, which I'm no longer sure. Blind guy, oh yeah, we can rate blind guy. Does the Jack of Spades really matter here? It does remove calls. It does remove calls, but at the same time, we're rating blind guy. That's very good, thanks guys. Does the Jack of Spades really matter here? It removes it removes calls, so it's good for our equity, that's for damn sure. Is there less jamming with this? Yeah, some of the concepts will apply, of course, yeah. I think I did a session on 10 and 15 big blind defense before. Yeah, it's... The concepts obviously will apply, yeah. This applies all the way up to like 15 big blinds. Just the nuances are what we need to work on. And seeing like things like this in practice is so good for you. Right. That's why trainer tools are so powerful, because you can play so many hands and discover spots that you've never seen before. And I wonder if this is actually... Ooh, a threshold hand. Threshold hand. Like, see, here we're not folding an ace with a spade. That I knew. Alright, so we're gonna play out the streak. Thanks for watching, guys. It's been fun. Instructive. Notice how on this board there's more leading than I originally thought, which is good. We're gonna slow play. Very interesting. Yeah, thanks guys for watching. We're gonna play out the streak. Once again, you should check out DTO Poker. Good app. You can learn all of this stuff. You have aggregate reports for everything. We got more coachings if you like the coaching. Yeah, that's good. Here I'm thinking the Jack of Spades is not really part of anything that folds. King Jack folds. I'm just gonna jam this. See the Jack of Diamonds does anything special here. Nothing, no. Less jamming Jack of Diamonds. No. So there's like some extremely specific spots where this matters. But also I correctly recognized that on 985 they just don't fold very often. So I just shoved it in. Poker is fun when they just don't fold. And there's less to think about. It's a very simple form of this game. Quick firing hands to end the streak. Will I make it? Like these are very straightforward. Check fold on Queen 7-4. And this, if you get a couple of these, this is how you get the streak going. Fours. We do not play. Yeah, I'm not folding a pair. We do not flat preflop to fold these. We flat preflop to fold on like the absolute worst boards. Break the streak to end it all. Call. obviously. Be kind of interesting to know what we do against small bet there, but not meant to be. Check fold. 100 hands. Wow, and we went really slowly as well. That's good. Call. No, I finished the streak here. Gotta lead. Gotta lead. What is interesting here, and even though we should not waste too much time, we just have to lead the turn to fold out better ace highs. I did not want to jam ace-6 here because while I do like the backdoor flush draw, what I did not like was the fact that I didn't have the backdoor straight draw as well. So again, guys, thanks for watching. Very instructive, very important spot. I'll try to do the next session on something very similar, brainstorm with Patrick and the boys to see what could be interesting. Feel free to give me feedback and everything on what you want to see next time, because it'll be fun. Yeah, very instructive spot. Only available for super high roller. Aggregate reports, very good for this spot. And yeah, I think we covered a lot of ground. And if you want to get better at this spot, join the Discord. Post some hands where you defend the big line of a, let's say, sub 10 big line stack, and you do something. And I would like you guys to post some hands about this stuff, because it is very important and we don't really talk about it. So for now, we're going to rate our good friend Blind Guy, who is called Blind Guy because he's blind. And the first time I met him, he said to me, "See you later." So he's a good guy. And we'll be seeing him now. So enjoy.